Hello, everyone. What's the difference between a debit card and a credit card? What should you use and which helps you more? And that's the topic of today's, let's call it debate, conversation, direction, input from myself, and find out what's best for you, especially where you are in life and what you've done in terms of experience. So let's start. So I'll start with what people say first, and I'll give the lifeline, right? So what we've heard in the past, number one, is that people use credit cards. It's good for building credit. It's also good for rewards. It's also good because it's not your money. I've heard that a lot. It's not your money; it's the bank's money. So you're spending the bank's money. That's okay. I've also heard topic around. Oh wait, you could use the money. Use the money from the credit card and pay back on time, and then use that money to invest in a money market fund or an ETF. Okay. Um, so those are good points, right? And I agree, in a way, right? They're good points, but are they the best for you? I think that's always clear. Again, I've worked in finance all my life, so nothing I say here should be construed as an advice. Obviously, especially as myself being a fintech CEO, I know what we need to do in terms of protecting ourselves and also looking at the individual situation where you are. So again, the point I have is that if you go online and just search, credit card versus debit card, there seems to be a lot of weight towards credit. Everyone wants to use credit. But like I always say, right, and I've said this on several videos, right, always look at who's talking, okay? To this day and age, there's no excuse to be fooled by anyone who claims to be clever. If someone looks you in the face and go, oh wait, yeah, you should use your credit card, just look at the person's credentials. Just look and say, hey, what have you done? Like, are you an influencer? If you are, then sorry, you're not equipped to talk about credit or debit. Oh, there's one guy specifically. I don't want to mention his name. He was, he was a fraud for like 30 years, right? Forged credit cards, and he became a celebrity. And everyone's listening to him now, right? And he goes, "Well, don't use, a credit card. Don't use a debit card. Only fools use debit cards, because when you use a debit card, it's your money. When you use a credit card, it's the bank's money." Is that true? No. But you can tell it's not true because you just have to look at the person behind it. Who's saying this? A fraud? And don't listen to the person. Oh, wait, another person comes over and then the person has worked in real estate all their life. If someone has worked in real estate all their life, they can't give you advice on finance, neither are they equipped. They just tell you their experience, okay? And their experience is very different from yours. So these guys, they've worked in real estate. They've made a million. They're probably worth millions at this stage, cash wise. They possibly have followers on YouTube, and because of the followers, you listen to them, right? And don't do that. Okay, just look at their profile. Look at their portfolio. You can go into LinkedIn these days. You can see a LinkedIn profile and know what the person is, whether the person is qualified or not, to give you that advice. And I say that because I see a lot of real estate gurus out there or marketing gurus who come out and say, hey, you should use a credit because of the rewards or because of this and that. Um, that's not true. Okay, so please, guys, if you take nothing from this video, look at the credentials of who's talking. Okay, again, I've worked across 3 continents, and you can go into LinkedIn and you can see that these days. Someone else comes over to you, it's worked, maybe had never actually worked ever, and they're now a CEO of a, of a marketing agency. You should listen to them. Okay, that's a long rigmarole of saying to you guys, please. There's a lot of you know, people who just spew out information out there. Be careful when you listen to them. Know that they're just talking about their perspective. It's not financial advice. And for us as well, I can tell you. So I'm a fintech CEO, and then obviously I've worked in banking for several years. So I know the products. I know, I've talked to a lot of banks, and I still advise banks right now. Like right now, I just got off a call with a bank CEO. So I know a lot of banks, bankers, and I know a lot of bank products. So a product is more important, okay, and that's how you gauge, right? As you're a banker, you want to sell to the customer as much as possible, okay? So be careful when people advise on what to do. So that being said, one information is please look at everyone's background, understand where they're coming from, and decide if you want to trust them or not, okay? So that being said, let's look at the advantages of having a credit card, right? We've said it from the start. Number one is your rewards. I agree. Okay, so it's good because when you use a credit card nowadays, you have Amex rewards, you have credit card rewards where they give you priority access to some boarding tickets, some boarding pass, some prestige services. That I agree. So with that, you can use a reward. But wait a minute, some programs do that today. So what's the cost of a credit card? How much are you paying? Think about it for a minute. How much are you paying for a credit card per annum? Okay. Even if it's free, even if you're paying everything back every month, you're paying a fee, okay, for that credit card. Stamp duty, anything for that credit card. Calculate that against your debit card. Maybe it's cheaper. Look at that. Or maybe it's cheaper to just buy a program. There are a lot of fintech, again, I'm just selling our fintech app, right? There are a lot of fintech apps today that will actually give you rewards for £5, £10 a month. They'll give you rewards, which will give you all the rewards that you need compared to a credit card. That's one thing to consider. But I agree on the fact that yes, you can use the credit card for the rewards, okay? But if you're using it for the rewards, then stick to the rewards and no more. That would mean that you use it to book your flight, repay it back. So treat it as a debit card and make sure you pay it back. Another person actually said, hey, when you use a credit card, you use it for, to build rewards. I agree to build credit, especially in the US, mostly in Europe as well, perhaps nowadays as well in Asia. That's a good idea, right? So that's true. So you want to use that as a stepping stone. That's the line. It has to be a stepping stone to better rewards, to better programs that the bank or products that the bank has. What that means is you should not stop at the credit card. If your idea and goal is only to use a credit card and then that's it. And then for some reason that ruins your credit. They can't get any product. Think about that. So that would mean again, most people, I can tell you, 50% of people in the US specifically, believe it or not, paying late fees every month. So that means they're not actually going past that product of a credit card to go into a mortgage, to go into loans, businesses. That's the idea. So the idea is meant to be a stepping stone to better products in the bank, to build your credit. But if you have no intention of actually borrowing, then please don't use it or just use it sparingly. Okay. So that's advice number two on that idea. Then the second idea I think is all around there's building credits. Also, I don't want to mention his name. I've said it from the start, but there's a famous actor who he was. I'm not going to say it. Actually, the movie was Catch Me If You Can, and that actor I think he's famous for saying that hey, if you use a debit card, you're you're being a stupid or whatever. You're being silly, yeah. Because you should actually use the bank's money when you use credit. That's as silly as saying that if you go to the mafia and borrow money from the mafia, you're using the mafia's money. Oh, yes, you are until you're late. Yeah. Yes, you're using the bank's money until you're late for fees. And that's where they come in. And that's what they hope for. Okay. That's what they hope for. So, right now, globally, right, check this out globally, 10% of everyone who's got a credit card are in default. And the bank relies on that. The bank knows 10 people are going to have non performing assets. That's non performing debt, sorry, on your credit. That affects you immediately. That's almost as bad as borrowing from the mafia, because the mafia just takes out. I mean, God knows what they do to people there, right? But that's the case now with this as well, because bank just takes out your life, just puts you straight into red. You can't borrow again. You can't do anything. You're black marked everywhere, just because of 1,000 credit limits on your credit card, right? So please, guys, let's be careful with that. When you spend money on your credit card, it's your money and it's your future you're spending. It's not the bank's money, yeah. And they wait and hope for that. At the start of the video, I mentioned the fact that about 50% of US customers currently are paying late fees every month. In Europe, that's about 40% of everyone who's got a credit card. So that means at some point, one person is going to be late, one in, two people are going to be late for their fees. And that's what the bank wants as well. Okay. And again, I've worked in bank all my life, right? So banks expect that. Banks want to sell a product to you and they hope that you get fees. Like a bank doesn't want to give you a card where you're going to pay everything up front every day. Sorry, every month to pay off your credit card bill and they've got nothing to show for it. They want the fees. So they want the stamp duty. They're hoping you're late, so they have some late fees applied. They also hope that for some reason you go into a pay monthly plan, so you pay over the course of a year. And in terms of pay monthly spreads, that's 30% of us. 30% of people don't pay the credit cards and then they end up converting into a loan. And if you convert a credit card into a loan, you're paying monthly. The APR jumps up. So APR is an annual percentage rate, which in this case would be about, on average, you get up to between 15 to 20% on a credit card. That's a lot, but that's good income for the bank. So like I said from the start, please, right? When someone sells to you, right, this is always a trick. When someone sells to you, look at the profile, look at the background. If these people have never done finance, then they're actually one just being stupid, right? Or two just saying it so they can have their followers because they already have followers. So they say that so they can sell more things to the followers, possibly have some deals with the bank. Some people do that. Some people have deals with the airlines as well. So if for instance, my Irish, so if Aer Lingus or BA, have a deal, they might talk to an influencer and try and hope that they sell credit cards on their behalf. That happens. And what do? They come around and tell you, please use your credit card. Okay, so this is not a it's not a slap back on credit cards per se, but it's just some thought that we need to think about. Just trigger that conversation to say, hey, really, is the credit card really what I'm using it for? Am I using it the right way? Am I recognizing the power of this credit card, right? And what happens if I default on that, right? So that's key. That's one thing to think about. Then there's one more point which everyone talks about as well, which is, hey, if you use your credit card, you're insured. Okay, if anything happens to you, you can claim the money immediately because someone's stolen your identity. That's true, but also that's the case these days with debit cards. So you can have a charge back on your debit card right now. If you go to the shop and pay with your credit card, that's true. You're right. It's the bank's money, so in that case, they'll refund you. Wait, that's the same with debit card. You can get a charge back immediately if you haven't got the service. Okay, so as long as you're not being fraudulent, the service wasn't provided, you can claim a cashback, and the banks and the Mastercard and Visa would refund you ASAP. Okay, so that argument doesn't stand as well. That, oh, listen, it's because of the chargeback or the credit, or how to make sure you are rewarded. Okay, and nowadays there's a lot of rewards that's almost comparable to credit cards these days, such that now the credit cards now become, let's call it a knife, a double-edged sword these days, because one, they give you the rewards, two, they're dangerous. The debit card would give you rewards, but are not as dangerous, and you can always shop around for credits or for rewards that you need if you need to. So that being said, again, just to summarize the 3 points here. Number one is, be careful when people try to sell products or claim to be experts on topics, and they're not. I wish more people in banking would come out and talk, and they do, but they don't have as much followers as this, as celebrities, who just come out and just say these things with millions of followers, but have zero or one or two experience in finance, right? So people have years of experience. Please listen to them, search online, go on LinkedIn and look at the profile of people advising you and decide if you want to go with them or not. One. And number two, everyone is unique. So that's key. So for some reason, if you want to build a credit, then I agree you should use a credit card. But not everyone wants to build a credit. So that what that means then is, hey, look at your particular circumstance. Look if you're disciplined enough to use that credit card, and make sure you pay regularly. Otherwise, a lot of people hope you don't. And that's how they make their money. Banks make money this way. They pass it on to credit referencing agents who also make money this way. Okay, believe it or not. And then they pass it on to actually non-performing parties. Again, we know them these days, who buy those debts, okay, and then chase you up as well, which causes just so much aggro for building a credit or for getting those rewards, which, and as sure as night is this, statistically 10-20% of us, will definitely default at some point or call, have some late fees applied. So please, please, please be careful, think about yourself, and credit or debit card, it's up to you. Just be yourself and investigate everything by yourself. Thank you. Bye.